Hello once again to everyone listening in, everyone tuning in. It's a pleasure to be back in your phone after such a long time. In fact, I want to actually start with apologies to you, my esteemed viewers or audience or listeners or whatever. Um, I'm sure you had noticed by now that I had taken a short production break. I'm actually about 2 to 3 weeks behind on the vlog, and actually just want to take some time, just the next few seconds, to explain why. The topic that I'm going to speak about today is not an easy topic. It's actually it's difficult, especially for those that have experienced it, those that are familiar with such a situation, or those that know people that have experienced it. Like even just listening to someone narrate a similar experience can make you feel some type of way, So I was conflicted over the past 2 to 3 weeks as to whether or not I must speak about it. I actually felt like talking about something else last week, but I felt like, no, that would be quite disrespectful to you, my audience. That would be giving you guys less than what you deserve. And what you deserve is the truth, unfiltered, told without fear or favor. So let's just get into it. A few years ago, let's say circa 2018, 2019, there's a hashtag that went viral on Twitter or social media in general. Um, this hashtag had to do with the black experience in private schools. Like for example, people like black people would explain or narrate or share their experiences with racism and in the various schools that they went to. It was in Zimbabwe, and then I think it might have gone on to South Africa a bit because we share a bit of a colonial history with our counterparts down south, oVilakazi laboMkhize. Yeah. So yeah, the hashtag went viral, and it was touching. It really hurt me to listen to people narrating their experiences. um how the system did them dirty, how it did them gangster. Double standards when it came to white students and black students. You know what I mean? So it was a bit painful to listen to. I'll admit. I chose to reserve my comments on it back then. Yeah, because I felt like it would die a natural death, and it did. I felt like talking about it then would lessen the impact of what I would have to share with other people. So it's taken me years to actually get to this point where I'm willing to actually have a conversation with people about my experience, and maybe enlighten someone out there, and help change the system. Because I feel like that's the only way we can make some change. Because what happened with that hashtag, it sort of became a competition to see who experienced racism more in high school. So it sort of lost all meaning along the way. But yeah, here we are, years later. I feel like now really is the right time for me to actually get into this topic. So today what we're talking about is really, as you can see, I'm a bit nervous because I don't feel like I'm experienced or qualified enough, or well versed enough to actually talk about this. So what I'll be talking about here is based on my experience, and what other people have experienced as well, and they have been kind enough to share with me, and a bit of research, of course, into it as well. Yeah, yeah. I don't want to talk much today. I just want to keep it under 20 minutes as usual, because I feel like if I start talking too much, it might become a rant. I'm trying as much as possible to remain, not as emotional. Yeah, I wanna speak about it factually. I don't wanna fight. I don't wanna come at some people. In fact, I won't even mention names. Yeah, because I don't have 500,000 lying around. I don't wanna get sued. So yeah, a brief history on institutionalized or systematic racism. We're talking about a system that is influenced by literally centuries, centuries of a mindset. You know, for lack of a better phrase, I'm going to use a bracket term, white people. I don't know. I didn't want to be that person who's a bit like walking on eggshells, trying to be politically correct and say why some white people. Nah, man, I think just I'm just going to do away with that. So basically, white people um, decided one day that they're superior, you know. I'm not sure what reasoning they used, but they decided that they're superior to black people. They thought that black people are savages, black people are not that intelligent, black people are thick, yes. Well, black women are thick, of course, yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they thought that black people they're primitive people. So they thought that they were doing us a favor by taking us from the shores of Africa to Europe and the Americas and so on, and them also coming to our territory and taking over, showing us their systems, teaching us their language, teaching us how to dress better. Because I mean, who walks around with their butts, exposed like that? No normal person would do that, right? So yeah, it's then it fostered a culture of racism, of course, right? And yeah, time we know how the story goes. Time went on, and um, African countries got their independence, right? Now, upon getting their independence, these people, um, this what we're talking about something that happened like in a split second. This is something that happened about safely, let's say 40 to 50 years ago, the independence like of a lot of African countries. About 40, let's base it 40 to 50 years ago. But we're now comparing it or placing it against a mentality within white people that has been cultivated over 400 years, you know. So obviously, we're not just, gonna change it overnight, right? So anyway, when white people came to Africa, they, generation, they got accustomed to the place and they had to send their kids to school, right? Now, upon sending their kids to school, obviously there's things like segregation. This was back before independence. Things like segregation, like black people are separated from white people. But after independence, post-independence, that curtain falls down. You can't really do that anymore. It's against the law. It goes against the whole principle of independence, us being one nation, one rainbow nation, right? Or that's what they call it, right? So now obviously they've been sending their kids to school. These private schools, these mission-run schools, they've been, they had funding from the government and well-off white people. So obviously, the kids that go to those schools, they are better off. They have access to better education, better resources, better networking. Like when they leave school, they're in a better position to conquer the world and make it their bitch, than black people would, or black kids would that go to these, reserve schools, whatever, right? So, with the fall of colonialism comes the advent of, black economic empowerment. Black people are now, some black people, a select group of black people that grows bigger and bigger by the day. Um, we thank God for that. They are in a position to actually afford to send their kids to these schools that were previously patronized by white people only, right? So when they enter such an environment, obviously they now have access to the same better resources, better network that white people previously, or white kids previously did, you know. But they are now exposed. They're now exposed to these people that have been cultured for 400 years, 400 plus years. To think that no, these people, these black people, be careful around them. They are dangerous. They are primitive. They have a word for it. I think in Afrikaans, kafas or something. I think that's, unfortunately, that derogatory term is something that's thrown around in so many conversations, even to this day. You know. Anyway, so black kids are put in those schools. They're exposed to these better resources, but they're also exposed to racism. You know, these people don't want them here. The owners of these places don't want them there. But unfortunately, they can't turn them away because first of all, they're paying good money, same amount of school fees, and secondly, it's illegal to do so, right? But it doesn't change the fact that they don't want us there, right? So basically, like I said, I wanted to keep it short because I feel like it's turning into a rant now. But yeah, let me try and nichi ka 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 ka, right? The concept of institutionalized or systemic racism is basically just double standards, right? Whereby the rules that apply to black people, or yeah, the rules that apply to black people don't apply to white people, and so on and so on and so on. Basically, institutionalized racism for dummies. Yeah, write this down. It's basically double standards, like in a system, you know. Here's a little test. If ever you're gonna pick anything from what I'm gonna say today, here's a little test of what exactly to look out for. How to know that the school that you're going to, or the school that you're sending your kid to, or the school that's someone is going to is racist. This is how you do it. Think of a situation whereby the sports that are usually white dominated. We're talking about your cricket, your swimming, your water polo, your rugby. Exactly. Yeah, they get more funding or more resources than sports that are usually black patronized. I'm talking about volleyball. I'm talking about soccer. Stuff like that. You know, and you can see that there's a disequilibrium here. Like it's not balanced. I'm talking about things like discipline. In a classroom, white kids will make so much noise. They can. Okay, let me not say they will, because that would be very racist of me. White kids can make so much noise, be unruly, be rowdy, right? Um, and nothing happens to them, or they just get a little, they a little warning. But when a black kid, you know, just lifts up their head or does something out of the ordinary, they're immediately reprimanded or disciplined, and usually this unfortunately is enforced by black teachers. Yeah, I'm talking about things like hair. It goes down. Institutionalized racism goes down to the most minute of details. Things like hair. You know, your kid or a black kid goes to a private school, or a school like the ones that I've been talking about, and their hair is a bit long, or so they say. According to that school's particular policy, their hair, it can be just about 2 or 3 centimeters long, but it's too long for them, right? Even if it's neat, even if it's combed, and they crack down on it. They're like, no, you need to do something about your hair. And then a white kid will have hair flying all over the place. It's uncombed, it's long, it's like, up to here, like shoulder length and so on. And, they just look the other way, in regards to that. It's those small details. That's how you know. That's how you know that, you're going to a racist school, right? And unfortunately, these double standards, when we talk about institutionalized racism, these double standards are enforced by black teachers, because the majority of teachers in Zimbabwe and South Africa are black. Even in private schools. They're enforced by black teachers, and I'm sure, of course, it's to do with job security, because no one's always willing to take on white people. You know, imagine punishing the wrong kid, and you find out that their parents are sponsoring some club or some sport or something of importance within the school. Even if he was wrong, their parent is involved, and then you're the one who gets punished for punishing that kid for doing something wrong, as if you were the one that's wrong. So I'm sure many teachers don't want to be in a situation like that, right? Um, that's why they sort of let things slide when it comes to white kids doing them. But when black kids do it, like, it's now, yeah, man, this is not how we do things, you know. And unfortunately, it reminds me of an analogy by the late Malcolm X, a radical thinker. I don't really vibe with everything that he says. He was a bit too militant for my liking, but he also said some real deep shit, you know. He had an analogy of house niggas and field niggas. Essentially, field niggas back in times of slavery in the Americas, field niggas were those black people, or slaves actually, the slaves that were kept in the field, the guys that work on the cotton plantation, the guys that work on the sugar plantation. You know, these are usually the I don't want to say uglier, but by white people standards then, they called them uglier because they were a bit more rugged, a bit more rough. They were darker in complexion, you know. So they told them to work outside. And then there were house niggas. The house niggas were, I don't know, they had fairer skin, and they were more appealing to the white eye because they almost, in terms of looking like white people, the house niggas look more like white people than the field niggas do, right? So they would get these people to work in the house, and what that did, it really fucked up these slaves, the way they think, because what it did, it made a house nigger feel like he's white. He's not. He's in a white man's house, in a white man's world, enforcing doing white people's things, or a white man's things, living by their standards, and so on. But essentially, at the end of the day, they are still a nigger. I'm sorry for using these words. I'm black. I'm allowed to, for lack of a better phrase. I'm just using the words of the great Malcolm X. At the end of the day, this person is still a black person. And I feel like the same can be said about us, or the black people within these institutions, these private schools, that enforce rules that were crafted by white people. These can be teachers, these can be prefects, and a black person in authority, so to speak, in summary, really. Yeah. Unfortunately, no matter how much a white man trusts you with his shit, you're still black, You're still, your people are suffering because you want recognition. And like I said, it's quite unfortunate. Anyway, like I said, I want to keep this short. I feel like this is the point where this has turned into a rant. But yeah, I feel like, let me just leave a few gems, for people out there. We all know a similar experience, to the ones that I've been talking about so far. And unfortunately, we can't do away with this whole mentality, the way some white people view us, what they think of us, when they see us, But the little that we can do, we should do. We're talking about a system of racism that is over 400 years old. We obviously can't do away with it overnight, but it's the small fights the small battles, those are the ones that that will eventually, you know, crack away, crack away at it. You know, those small knocks, those small chips at the block, eventually are what makes the whole structure crumble. You know what I mean? And my my closing remarks to whoever is listening to this is challenge the system. Challenge the system. You know, we are equal. There's no race that's more superior than the other. You know, black people and white people, same WhatsApp group. You know, so under no circumstances, in no scenario, can you make yourself feel like you are inferior. You know, especially in a situation whereby you have paid the same school fees. You know, you have paid school fees for your kid in full. Your parents have paid school fees for you in full for you to go and learn with these people. And they want to come and challenge you in such a way that you feel like, you know, you don't belong. No, you do. You do. You know. So I feel like it's those things, those small, those small things. You know, call people out, call institutions out on these issues of social justice. You know, because that's the only way. That's the only way we can eventually have a racism free world. I believe it's possible. Maybe not in my lifetime, but I wouldn't forgive myself if if the world that I'm bringing my kids, should I have any, isn't better than the one that I was brought up in. You know, and this goes up across the board, including racism. You know, I feel like black people keeping their heads down, you know, minding their own business, being silent, it makes us complicit. You know, white people are not going to treat, they're not going to teach each other how to treat us. We have to, we have to show them. We have to show them, set a standard that no, you cannot treat us this way. This is not right. You need to stop it. You know, because they're certainly not gonna have a conference amongst themselves. You know, on deciding on how exactly to treat black people. Last time they did that, they divided Africa amongst themselves. So I don't really think we want a situation like that anymore. You know, I've said a lot. I really have. My apologies. I'm actually making up for the past weeks that I wasn't able to to publish anything for you guys. I've said a lot, and I do trust that this has inspired. I know, like it may not have been as detailed or as informed. This was me just starting a conversation, and I hope that it did. You know, I hope that it makes us think twice about some of the things that we take for granted in this world. You know, realize that there are some causes that are bigger than ourselves, you know, and we really need to do something about it. You know, anyway, thank you so far for listening to this long ass vlog. I'll catch you next week, definitely next week. I'll be releasing something for you guys. As you can tell, we're now going into the deeper topics, you know. So when it comes to things like social justice, I think that's the main thrust. That's the main thing that I'll be going for, you know. So thank you. Let's not wait. Let's not wait for the George Floyds of the world to die for us to see, for us to see the forest for the trees, for us to wake up and smell the coffee. Racism is happening all around us, and we need to do something to stop it. Thank you.